Some people said to me, if somebody made an electric outboard motor that was more like 10 horsepower versus the 3 horsepower that my motors are, that they would consider one of those. Well, here's one right here. This is a 10 horsepower equivalent electric outboard motor made by ePropulsion. Yep, they make one like this. Yes, it's more money than the 3 horsepower one, and we're gonna take a ride with this right now, and then we're gonna talk about it. So with this ePropulsion Navy 6.0 being a 10 horsepower equivalent, 9.9 equivalent, once again, you know, that's a little bit fuzzy. It's really, really loud and it's really obnoxious whenever it's running. Go ahead and fire it up. I don't know if you can barely hear my voice over top of the roar of that engine, but basically all we're hearing is water back there. That's it. All right, so we're running like probably 3/4 throttle right now, and I'm back here by the motor. Just to show you how loud or quiet this motor is, I'm gonna put the microphone right over by the motor. So right now we're going 6.5 miles an hour, silently, except for the water, which is not full speed for this motor. And this is a relatively bigger, heavier boat for this motor. So if you're running this on a 14-foot or 12-foot boat, it'd probably fly.
It would. I've seen folks with aluminum boats going somewhere between 12 and 14 miles an hour. And this boat weighs probably about 800 pounds, 700 to 800 pounds. And we've also got a deep V, so those are other factors that are slowing down a little bit.
This one actually happens to belong to my good friend Dan right here. And say hi, Dan.
Hello.
And Dan has his own YouTube channel, which I will link to in the video description, because he does a lot more cool projects than I do. And it's not just boat stuff, he does other things too. So whenever you buy this particular ePropulsion Navy 6.0, it actually does not come with any of the batteries or the controller. I know that you have to buy the controller separately. So all of your charging is, you can either buy ePropulsion stuff or do your own proprietary thing, which is what you did.
So for the battery system for this, it's a 48-volt system. And what we do is we've got 3 eco-worthy batteries, and they're lined up in parallel.
The ePropulsion Navy series motors do not come with a battery. ePropulsion sells batteries for these motors, which you have to buy separately, or you can build your own system, which is exactly what Dan has done here.
And then this is just a deck box for your patio, for boat cushions, and it kind of worked well in place here. So this is our system in here. It looks a little more complicated than it really is. So we've got 3 of our batteries right here. These are each 48 volt, they're 51.2 volt batteries, but they're called 48 volt batteries. So we've got 3 of these. This is the power switch for the motor, so we can deliver that to there. This is a solar controller, so I'm in the process of working on setting up solar panels to charge this up, and that's another project that should be coming along down the line.
And you'll be putting that on your channel, right?
I will, that is the plan. We've got the panels, we've got the controller here, and I've tested this with some smaller panels. So everything is working. And the cool thing with the setup here is we've got a shunt put in here, and then a readout on the dash that will tell us what our current is that's going in from solar, as well as what we're pulling from. And that was kind of a fun install. The other things that are in here, this is just a box I put together. This is not really connected to any of the motor stuff. There's a little lithium iron phosphate battery in here, and this controls the navigation lights. We've got a readout here for our battery here. We've got some USB chargers, a 12-volt charger, and this is sort of independent of the whole system because I haven't decided yet if I want to build this into the dash or just keep it on its own. So this is just its own little thing. And on this side, this is just a toolbox.
And your charger?
And my charger for the time being.
Now obviously with electric outboard motors, the thing that people always talk about is range. And when you're on a smaller lake like this, range really isn't that big of an issue. And we've actually been out running right now for how long we've been running? For like 20 minutes? Half an hour?
20, 25 minutes.
Yeah, so we've been running for 20, 25 minutes. And when we slow down, the gauges will show us how much range we have left. And as of right now, at the speed we're going, we have 2 hours of range left. If we were to slow way down, which we did a couple minutes ago, we'll have 4.5 hours of range left. So it's not as big of an issue as you would think it would be. Yes, you're not going to take a 2 or 3 or 9.9 horsepower on a small boat out in the ocean and be out there all day long. And most boaters will bring something with them as a backup whenever they're out. We have a paddle, we have a backup. This gauge will let us know we're not going too far from home. If we get short on range, we'll slow down a little bit and head back home. Have you ever run out of range out here?
No.
No. All right, now let's talk about cost, because you saw some numbers up earlier. For this ePropulsion Navy 6.0, which is the 9.9 horsepower equivalent outboard motor, the cost of this from Tiny Boat Nation is $3,599. Now, just so you know, if you are interested in this, I do have a discount code, and I'll give you that later on in the video. In addition to that $3,600, you have to buy a throttle control. There's 3 types available. There's the tiller control, there's a vertical side mount, and then a horizontal side mount control. But you also have to buy your battery or batteries and a charger. The ePropulsion battery that they make for this motor is a $4,000 battery, which is why Dan built his own setup using 3 batteries that he got from Amazon. So there are alternatives, but essentially you're probably looking at spending at least $1,600 for batteries and a charger for this motor. That brings your total cost to around $5,500, which is a lot more than an equivalent gasoline outboard that I'll show you in a second. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of this ePropulsion electric outboard. Obviously it's quiet. These are much quieter than a gasoline outboard. They're very easy to start and operate. There's no fluids to deal with, there's no impeller, there's no warming up. You just push the button and go. And there's no maintenance. I don't think there's any maintenance you can do to these. So basically, once you've left them stored for the winter, you charge up your batteries and away you go in the spring. However, the cons are that it's expensive, and it's quite expensive. Now let's compare that to this brand new Suzuki 9.9 horsepower 4-stroke. This engine costs $2,610, and that comes with a fuel tank and a fuel line. This one here is tiller controlled, it's electric start, so we're comparing apples to apples, and so you'd have to buy a battery for the electric start to work. Of course, you don't need a very big battery, you just need a little 12-volt starting battery. So obviously, a lot cheaper is one of the big pros. But the cons of this gasoline outboard motor is that it's much louder, there's more regular maintenance that you need to do to it, and you're regularly having to check and add gasoline and oil. Depending on your situation and where you plan to boat and your budget is whether or not the ePropulsion makes sense for you. It obviously doesn't make sense for everyone. There are a lot of people who this Suzuki gasoline outboard engine is the right choice for them. And for some of us, the ePropulsion is the right choice. And it's not just because we're on an electric-only lake or something, but for some of us, we don't like the idea of having to maintain a gasoline outboard. The simplicity of it, essentially, it's like running a trolling motor. And many of you probably have an old Minn Kota trolling motor that you just leave sitting in the corner of your shed or your garage, and you just stick it on your boat and connect it to the battery, and you use it every year without a thought. The ePropulsion is very similar to that. So yes, you're paying a premium for that convenience or that luxury. And boating is expensive. Boat stuff is expensive. So for some of us, spending double to have this quiet, simple to operate motor makes sense. It's just like having 2 outboards on the back of some boats makes sense for some people. Obviously, if you're one of those people who've been running a 40-year-old Johnson or Evinrude on the back of your boat for the last 20 years, this doesn't make any sense for you. It's too much money. You probably wouldn't even consider this new Suzuki for $2,600. You're probably looking for another used outboard engine that you could buy for under $1,000. And I get it. Many of us are on a budget. As I alluded to earlier, I can actually offer you a discount on this motor and several other things. I'm a partner with Tiny Boat Nation, so if you use the discount code WAYNE at checkout, W-A-Y-N-E, you can get 5% off of your order. So that's whether or not you're ordering this particular motor or a Spirit Plus 1.0 or really anything else from the Tiny Boat Nation store. So I'll have a link in the description for the discount code and to get to Tiny Boat Nation. Thanks so much for watching. Here's the next video that YouTube has picked for you. Check it out. It's a good one.